Supervisor Bob Vinson was on night duty on the second floor of a hotel when he noticed a strange-looking machine in the hallway. It hadn't been there earlier. This floor was reserved strictly for hotel employees, and seeing something so unusual at this time of night made Bob suspicious. The object appeared to be a metallic box, with a smaller box attached to it. On the front, it had what looked like a control panel with 28 switches, 23 of which were flipped on. It was 6:30 in the morning. The hotel in question was Harvey's Resort Hotel and Casino at Lake Tahoe, Nevada, and within the next 24 hours, this story would make national headlines. But for Bob Vinson, this strange machine wasn't the only concern. He had been on duty all night and hadn't heard any sound of the machine being placed in the hallway. Whoever had brought it in must have done so extremely quietly. The machine was sitting on 4 wooden blocks that had been buried beneath the carpet, indicating it was extremely heavy. Even more alarming, the door locks in the surrounding area had been disabled with superglue. As Bob examined the scene in disbelief, he spotted an envelope beside the machine. On the envelope were the words, "To the Harvey management. Welcome once again to another thrilling video from Dark Bright." Harvey's Resort Hotel and Casino in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, was an 11-story building with 197 rooms at the time. After finding the mysterious envelope, Bob immediately alerted hotel security. Soon, the police and fire departments were called in as well. Initially, no one dared to open the envelope, fearing it might be rigged. Eventually, using a broomstick, they managed to open it carefully. Inside were 3 typewritten pages with a heading that read, "Warning to Hotel Management. Bomb Squad Notice." The letter made it very clear. Do not try to move this bomb. It contained a mechanism so sensitive that even the slightest movement would trigger a detonation in milliseconds. It warned against pouring water or gas over it, as the machine contained float switches that would cause a pressure buildup and trigger an explosion. Even the screws on the machine were part of the triggering mechanism. If turned more than 25 times, it would explode. In short, the bomb was described as dangerously delicate. At that time, around 600 guests were asleep in their rooms. Authorities quickly evacuated the hotel and moved everyone to the parking lot. The bomb squad arrived to examine the machine, which was made of half-inch thick steel sheets. It was expertly welded, with even the tiniest imperfections covered using automotive putty. All 4 sides of the machine had bubble levels, suggesting it needed to remain perfectly level. Every detail so far matched what the letter had claimed. The letter went on to say the bomb could not be disarmed, not even by its creator. It had automatic timers that would go off within 24 hours unless the hotel management followed the instructions in the letter precisely. Realizing the threat was real, the authorities took no chances. They checked the machine for fingerprints but found none. Then they photographed it from every angle and used special X-ray equipment to peer inside. While waiting for the X-rays, they placed a stethoscope on the box and listened carefully. There was definitely something moving inside. According to the letter, the bomb contained TNT, but how much? One part of the letter warned that if the bomb exploded, it would also damage the casino across the street. The letter advised evacuating all buildings within a 1,200-foot radius. Police acted quickly. They evacuated neighboring buildings, shut off the hotel's gas supply, and casino staff began transferring millions of dollars in cash to a secure location. Soon, FBI agents arrived and set up a command center in a nearby building. Their faces said it all. This situation was far more serious than it appeared. But what did the bomber want? The letter stated a demand: $3 million in cash with specific conditions. The bills had to be used, unmarked, and untreated with any chemicals. If the hotel didn't comply within 24 hours, the bomb's automatic timer would trigger a massive explosion. There was no room for deception. If they tried anything, they wouldn't be told how to disarm the bomb. But how and to whom was the money to be delivered? The next clue came once the X-ray film was developed. Though the image was blurry, it did confirm some elements from the letter. Wires were connected to the screws in the control box. A straight tube, possibly a tilt sensor, was visible. A float valve was clearly seen. The bottom compartment appeared packed with various cylinders. No one yet knew what these cylinders contained, but it was clear this was no prank. As the 24-hour deadline loomed, authorities decided to comply, at least publicly. The letter had very specific delivery instructions. The money had to be flown in by helicopter. The pilot was to land near the LTA building at Lake Tahoe Airport at exactly 11 p.m., facing south. He was then to stand by the fans and wait for a phone call that would provide further instructions. Importantly, the letter warned, the helicopter must only contain the pilot, no armed personnel or security. To execute this plan, FBI agent Joe Cook was chosen to fly the chopper. They loaded it with $3 million in counterfeit bills and hid an armed agent behind the pilot's seat. At 11 p.m., the pilot landed at the designated spot and stood near the fans. Moments later, the nearby phone booth rang. The agent answered, and a voice on the other end told him to look under the booth's table for another letter. Whoever was on the phone was extremely cautious. He hung up within 5 seconds to avoid being traced. The new letter addressed to the pilot had more instructions. First, light up the helicopter's interior using a flashlight and show every corner to prove it was empty. "We're watching you," it said. Then take off and fly toward Highway 50. After 15 minutes, a strobe light would appear in the forest to the right. The pilot was to land near it and find another envelope hanging from a tree. The pilot followed instructions. He cleverly angled the flashlight to avoid revealing the hidden gunman. He took off and flew toward the highway, but no strobe light was visible. He circled the area for over an hour in the dark wilderness, but found nothing. Eventually, he returned to the airport. Later, it turned out he had misread the location. The actual destination was miles away. To alert the bomber, police released a message through the media, stating that there had been confusion about the instructions. The mastermind, realizing the authorities were still willing to negotiate, made a call. He said, "At the hotel, flip switch number 5 on the machine and await further instructions." Perhaps he was buying time to execute a new plan, but by this time, it was already 6:40 a.m., more than 24 hours since the bomb had been placed. The fact that it hadn't detonated was, at least, a good sign. Back in the command center, the FBI, police, and bomb squad analyzed the situation. Based on the structure, they estimated the machine could contain up to 1,000 pounds of TNT. If it exploded, the hotel's support pillars would likely survive, but the floor itself would be destroyed. With that risk in mind, they planted a controlled plastic explosive next to the control box. The hope was that their small blast would disable the triggering mechanism and prevent the TNT from detonating. Everything was in place. Surrounding buildings were evacuated. At exactly 3:45 p.m. on August 27th, the countdown began. News crews filmed the scene as the team pressed the detonation button. A blast echoed through the corridor. But contrary to the letter's claims, the bomb did not contain TNT. Later investigations revealed it contained dynamite, which has a much smaller blast radius. So, who was behind this entire operation? The investigation uncovered that the mastermind behind the Harvey's casino bomb was 58-year-old John Birges, assisted by his 2 sons. John had lost his life savings gambling at the very same casino. In a desperate bid for revenge and money, he devised this incredibly complex plan. His endgame wasn't just the ransom. It was to steal the helicopter and escape with the money. If the pilot had landed at the correct location, his sons were prepared to hijack the chopper and fly it to a secondary location where a getaway car awaited. John Birges was sentenced to 20 years in prison, while his sons were granted immunity in exchange for cooperating with the authorities. In 1996, John died of liver cancer while still incarcerated. After the incident, Harvey's resort hotel was completely renovated and relaunched with a fresh design and even more rooms. Thank you for watching this fascinating story on Dark Bright. Don't forget to like and share the video, and we'll see you in the next gripping episode.